Hello, how's it going, everybody? This is Ask Me Anything About Politics. So, if you have any questions about politics, let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you don't know too much about it. I was really intimidated by politics when I first started getting into it, so I don't judge people for not knowing things. I don't tease people or roast people for not knowing things. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. There's no such thing as a dumb question. I am not here to fight. I am not here to ridicule or anything like that. I am just here to answer your questions. There was a time when I didn't know anything about politics, and I was always really scared to ask people questions about it because I was worried that people were going to tease me or they were going to roast me. And a couple of times that actually happened. So I did not like the way that felt, and I decided that I would make myself available to people to answer their questions about politics, and they wouldn't have to worry about getting judged or ridiculed or anything like that. I don't do debates. I'm not going to judge you based on your question. You don't got to worry about, if I ask this, he's going to think I'm some sort of left-wing cuck libtard, or if I ask this, he's going to think I'm some sort of MAGA lunatic. There's no judgments here. I don't care how you voted. I don't care if you are to the right from me. I don't care if you're to the left from me. I don't care if you've never voted. I am just here to answer your questions about politics. It can be something about what's going on now. It can be something about history. It can be something simple. It can be something complicated. There is no such thing as a dumb question. There will be no judgments or roasting or debating. It is just good faith answers to all good faith questions. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're just getting started trying to learn about things, and there's a lot of names to know and a lot of acronyms to know and a lot of agencies and abbreviations and stuff like that. So I am just here to help people along on their journey to getting started learning this stuff. It's a little bit like learning a language, and once you start getting into the habit of things and you start recognizing different names and different things in the process, then the whole thing gets a little bit easier to kind of figure out. Mike Hawk says, what's the solution to increasing wealth inequality? Do you want to increase wealth inequality? That's interesting. Let's see here. Letting down the hair, do I see? What's up, Tyro? Jay Easy says, do you follow Q? No, I do not. Mike Hawk, I appreciate you editing your question to decreasing. Because, yeah, it's really easy to increase wealth inequality. We just got to keep on doing what we've been doing, As far as decreasing income inequality, it's also pretty simple. So what you do is you change the tax code to make it so that the billionaires have a higher tax what do you call it? They have a higher tax bill. They have a higher tax obligation. You also need to staff the IRS and increase their funding so that they can go after rich tax cheats. They did that during the Biden administration, and it yielded unbelievable results. The money paid for itself, basically. And then you need to use that money that is coming in from taxing the rich to ease the financial burdens on the rest of Americans, social programs, welfare programs, potentially things like nationalized healthcare and free public college. You also need to start working on breaking up monopolies because at the moment everything is owned by like 10 companies, and so it is really easy for there to be kind of like, inorganic price controls on things where, you notice that the cost of everything kind of goes up at the exact same time. That's because there's no real free market competition anymore because there's so much monopolization that's been happening. So yeah, come down on that. And you need to start regulating private equity as well, because right now private equity is just like buying up all the single family homes so they can turn everybody in America into a perpetual class of renters instead of anybody being able to own their own home. Make it illegal for private equity to own single family homes. Suddenly you increase the availability of residences and prices go down, stuff like that. But yeah, look, there's a lot of things we can do. We just have to elect politicians who are going to do it. And unfortunately, the Republican Party doesn't really give a shit about decreasing income inequality. They like it, because they want there to be a class of people that is above the rest of us, that get to tell us what to do because they hold all the cards. Joe Mann says, ma'am says, should churches get taxed? I'm for that. Ford says, what do you think about the involvement of Israel in the JFK assassination? I have not seen any substantive data to suggest that that is a thing. Angela O says, do you agree that the administration is implementing Curtis Yarvin philosophy? I actually don't know what the Curtis Yarvin philosophy is. Timbo Fisher says, educate yourself. I do, every day. I would die for you, Bosch says, do you think the good stuff Trump does is for marketing purposes? I don't think he does do good stuff. Can you be more specific? IGP Trey says, private equity only owns 6% of single-family homes, man. All right, well, that's still too many. That prices out a lot of people from the market. Logan Jack says, if you tax churches, won't they need proper representation in government? I mean, they do. They already are involved in our politics. They already do a lot of lobbying, and they already talk to their congregations and use their, megaphones in order to push political agendas. So, yeah, they're essentially represented in government already. Let's see here. Manbag45 says, explain why policy matters if someone don't make a new one and betters a situation. Can you clean up that question? I'm not really sure what you're asking. Alrighty. Scott123 says, will they take our Social Security? Yes. 2Dog says, you kind of look like Bradley Cooper. What a nice thing to say. IG Petrie says, private equity owning 6% isn't the reason why homes are expensive. It's part of the reason. Mr. Matthews says, opinion on Israel. Israel is currently being run by a far-right extremist government under the purview of Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu. For a long time, Israel has been a really bad neighbor to the countries that are surrounding it. They have been annexing territory into Palestine and treating the people that live there like second-class citizens. It is obvious apartheid. It is creating a class of creating a second-class citizen class. People have described all of Palestine as an open-air prison. That is not a great move. It is not a great look. At the moment, the people that are running Palestine is Hamas. The people that are running Israel is the right-wing government of Netanyahu. And those are both bad faith actors. They have both been guilty of war crimes. But because we are not giving money and weapons to Hamas, we really just got to focus on our relationship with Israel. Because we are giving them money and weapons, and because they are guilty of doing war crimes, then it is illegal for us to be sending them money and weapons, in addition to it being morally bankrupt and just tactically stupid. Drake, I thought you were Scott Disick when I first joined. Is that a compliment? Isn't that one of the guys who was hooking up with, married to one of the Kardashians or some shit? Don N says, how long will it take to recover from this administration? Definitely more than 4 years. The Biden administration was hindered by undoing a lot of the damage of the first Trump administration. So it's going to take maybe 2 presidential terms for us to fully get back on our feet. But as far as the damage to our image in the international community, a lack of trust in the international community, building up trust in institutions, getting more people involved in politics, this stuff is going to take, potentially a generation to fix, especially if we have, centrists in charge when and if Democrats are able to retake power and they are, dragging their feet on things that would hasten, fixing things we really need to do something to rebalance the Supreme Court, for example, and whether that is adding seats or term limits or what, we got to do something. We cannot just sit and wait for these people to either die or retire, because they are doing some real fucking bad shit. Yeah, baby. Over on Twitch, what's going on? Did Trump declare war on a gang? I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I mean, he's done things like that. He has declared war on the cartels in Mexico and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if there is a specific incident that you're referring to. Alex says, I love you. Say it back. I love you too, Alex. I don't know who you are, but I love you. UK Humble 01 says, in the absence of the U.S. in global policing, is Europe going to be enough to step up into that role? I don't know. It takes a lot of time to build up the kind of wartime manufacturing that you would need in order to create the number of, arms and tanks and stuff and infrastructure, even just to transport that stuff. So I think it's going to be a real close game. And so I am worried about that sort of thing, especially if America becomes one of the countries that Europe needs to defend themselves against. That's going to be a real tight. That's going to be a real tight one. I don't think it's obvious either way, but it's definitely precarious. Glenn D says, go Trump. So I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but actually ask a question. Don't just spam the comments with your, politicking, Ben Jerkin says, Democrats are done. Now they won't be in office for a long time. I don't know what you mean by done. There are still a lot of people that support the Democratic Party, myself included. And and barring the Trump administration canceling elections or trying to lie and cheat and steal to win elections and doing shady things to try to skew elections in their favor, I think the Democrats have a really good chance of getting back power. Jan Missildine says, it's confirmed that the GOP is looking into removing term limits. Do you think they could? Yeah, I don't know. We're talking about removing term limits for judges or people in Congress or shit like that. I don't know. Removing term limits. Removing term limits. Oh, for president and shit like that. Yeah. Could they do it? Is what you're. Sorry, I needed to figure out what you're talking about, Jan. So here's the thing. I don't know the mechanism by which Trump is going to try to remove presidential term limits so that he can become president dictator for life. I don't know if he's going to use the Supreme Court or if they're going to try to pass some legislation or if they're going to try to do a constitutional convention or anything like that. But I know that they're going to try. I know that he wants to do that. There are mechanisms by which he could do that, especially considering the fact that the Supreme Court is in his pocket and all of the Republicans are in his pocket and the Department of Justice is in his pocket and the FBI is in his pocket and the military is potentially going to be in his pocket. So yeah, it's terrifying. It's not legal. It's flagrantly unconstitutional. But if you don't have a Republican Party in Congress that is willing to stand up to him and do the right thing, if you don't have a Supreme Court that is willing to just follow the letter of the law and do what the Constitution says they're supposed to do, if you don't have an FBI and a DOJ and a Department of Defense that is, committed to protecting the country and the Constitution and is instead just wants to do whatever Daddy Trump tells them to do, then yeah, it's 100% possible, and it is something that we should be extremely concerned about. All right, scrolling down to the bottom of the comments, Jules Style says, oh, you do not know that he wants to do that. Have you talked to him personally? No, but I have looked at everything that he has said and done in the past. I think it is extremely short-sighted and potentially lying to say that it is not obvious that he's going to try to be president and dictator for life. BB Fan, good to see you again. What are your thoughts on Levitt's last example of spreading garbage? I don't know which Levitt are you referring to? Ray says, how do you feel about Cubans complaining about unjustified deportation? Pretty ironic. I mean, I think that anybody, whether you are white, black, or brown, or whatever, who voted for Trump and is now surprised by all of these illegal ICE roundups and humanitarian nightmares that they're fucking doing by taking people away from their pregnant wives and stopping children getting their brain cancer treatments and shipping them to fucking, other authoritarian countries and locking them in fucking black site prisons where they're being tortured and, they're massive human rights violations and shit like that. I think that you were probably misinformed by a lot of misinformation and disinformation. I think that if somebody voted for Trump and then somebody that they cared about got deported, I'm like, yeah, you kind of got what you paid for. But at the same time, we need to have empathy for people who just got tricked and who just got conned. There are a lot of people on the left who got tricked and conned into not voting in 2024 or in voting for Trump in 2024. And I think we need to have empathy for those people as well. We need to welcome people into the world of having their eyes open and recognizing what's real and what's not real, and encouraging people to step away from the propaganda channels. And I don't think that waving our fingers at people and being like, well, you did the stupid thing and this is your fault, what happened here. I understand being angry, I understand being frustrated, but Republican voters, people that voted for Trump, do not have a monopoly on getting conned. And I don't think it's productive to just continue butting heads in the 99% when the 1% are fucking us over so thoroughly and efficiently. I think we all need to have our fucking targets, our metaphorical targets, sighted on the billionaire class in the Republican Party that is working in league with them. Corporal Fly says, do Dems have any leverage? Short answer, zero. They have absolutely no leverage. They have almost no power in government. In addition to that, they are the party of trying to have a government, whereas the Republican Party is the party of not having a government. So they're incentivized to do whatever they can to shut down the government. They don't care about hurting American citizens and people around the globe. So they're basically like, they have the whole world hostage right now, and the Democrats have absolutely no power to do anything to stop them. So whereas before you could have leverage for shutting the government down, the Republicans are like, yeah, fucking shut it down, man. Destroy the whole fucking thing. Let's all live in the fucking Wild West, man. Ooh, let's see here. Muffishev over on Twitch says, "Sup, dude, I've noticed how the focus on big things changes in the U.S. Yesterday, America went to war for Israel, and today everyone forgets about that and just focuses on the Kennedy files. Why you think they do that?" What's up, Norway? Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being here. So here's the thing. I think that every human being has a problem with focus in modern life, where we all have 1,000 things coming at us at a time with social media and news bulletins and notifications and our text chat chains. And additionally, the fact that we're all living through a cost of living crisis. So everybody's fucking worried about being able to put food on the table, being able to pay for health care, in addition to, like watching the new season of Temptation Island and shit like that. So I think it's just kind of it's a natural side effect of just living in modern America that we're all kind of being forced to have ADHD because there's just so many things that we're being forced to pay attention to. But I think the bigger issue is propaganda and misinformation. The fact that so many Americans get their news from social media or just from their social circles as opposed to actually reading the news is part of that problem, because social media, controlled by billionaires, influenced by the Republican Party, is incentivized to make it so that people can't focus on one specific issue. Because if they keep on, changing the target and, distracting us with shiny objects, then we won't ever, organize or get perpetually mad about things that aren't changing. I think that it is partly a side effect of the way that our culture has, descended into, an attention economy, but I also think part of it is deliberate, inorganic manipulation by the billionaire class working in league with the Republican Party and adversarial nations like Russia to specifically distract us and, cause us anxiety with all of the different things that are happening. All right, going back over to TikTok. Let's see here. Estella, yesterday I was made aware of the Election Truth Alliance. It was interesting and a bit concerning. Yeah, I think, I'm not 100% sure, that name sounds familiar, Estella, but yeah, that sounds like one of those organizations that is committed to voter suppression, but they give themselves a flowery name like the American Liberty and Freedom Voting Organization. Big Mistake says, do people learn racism from their parents? Some people do. Some people get radicalized on the internet. I'm reading this book right now called The Persuaders about, doing the work of convincing people to come away from, misinformation and propaganda and shit like that. It's excellent. I highly recommend it. And one of the things that they talk about is that when people are suffering and struggling, it is way easier to convince them of things. Because, our brains are just kind of like hungry for explanations and reason and meaning. And so as we are all suffering through a cost of living crisis, as there is a male mental health crisis because they're being radicalized on the internet and they're being left behind, they're not doing as good in school, and the late stage capitalism has made it impossible for people to have a better life than their parents. It is that much easier for them to, look at social media and just buy whatever bullshit they see on there. And so I think that people struggling and feeling unsafe and not being able to have the kind of lives that they've been promised is making them prime for things like red pill theory and misogynism and racism and shit like that. Ooh, we got a really nice, cool bit of activity happening over on Twitch. I'm gonna have to try my best to divide my time evenly between the two. Love Life over on TikTok says, how do you see our country surviving Musk and Trump's destruction of our country? The only way we're gonna survive this is if we all do the work, is if individuals do the work. And I'm talking about individuals in every state, in every city. We all have to do it. There is no organization that wants to help us get out of this that can help us get out of this. The Democratic Party has no political power right now, and they don't have the resources available to them to fight the Republican Party. Because in addition to having all the political power right now, the Republican Party has access to unbelievable resources through, countries like Russia and people that have unimaginable wealth like Vladimir Putin and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and Donald Trump, etc. There's a reason why Donald Trump has more billionaires in his cabinet than any president in history. It is because the Republican Party is aligning with the top 0.1% to fix this country in a way that no one can ever get out of poverty. They will be in charge of everything. There'll be no rules and regulations for them, and we will all be forced into fucking wage slavery with no rights and no options, and we're all gonna have to work fucking 80 hours a week at 5 different jobs with no health care and shit like that. So yeah, we have to do the work. We have to do the work because the Democratic Party does not have those resources available to them. We have to all be the messengers for voting against the Republican Party, and that means voting for the Democratic Party. I think there's a lot of value to the Democratic platform, but even if it was just to get rid of Republicans, there's value there too. I think it's a, two birds, one stone situation. We get the good Democratic platform and we lose the bad Republican platform. But yeah, we have to do the work. We have to talk to our friends, our family, our neighbors, our coworkers. We have to make sure that people aren't getting their news off of social media, that we are correcting narratives that have been perpetuated by the ruling class specifically to elect Republicans and get people to not vote for Democrats, to get people disengaged from the process, to make them cynical, to make them throw up their hands and go, well, I guess we're all fucked. Maybe I can get a job fucking licking Peter Thiel's butthole, and then my family will be safe at least. All right, switching over to Twitch. Yeah, baby says, in your opinion, what would be an example of a non-propaganda news source or channel? So here's the thing, and I know I get raked over the coals for saying this shit, but in my opinion, the only media that you can trust is progressive media, because the Republican Party has gone completely psychotic. The people who are elected in positions of power in the Republican Party are as far right as you can fucking get. We're talking about straight authoritarian dictator Nazi shit, Schnazi shit. And the traditional news media, legacy news media, centrist news media, they're not accurately reporting the ills of the Republican Party. They're reporting the horse race of, who's winning, who's not winning, and they're treating both parties as though they are equal when they are not. One is responsible adults, and the other is fucking psychopaths. So progressive media is the only media that is accurately reporting the real dynamic of the two political parties. And sometimes I come down on progressive media too for being too hard on the Democratic Party. Every time I hear someone on like MSNBC or whatever talk about how the Democrats caved in this spending fight recently, I'm like, that's completely fucking inaccurate, But failing that, without getting into like one source, I would just say try to have a nice, varied and diverse news diet. You can listen to and read some legacy media, some centrists, some progressives, some foreign independents, that's all that stuff helps. It's the Rocketeer says, who knew the voters for puppies and rainbows were all neo-Nazis? I'm not 100% sure what you're referring to. It's the Rocketeer, but I think I know what joke you're making. It's Norway says, hi, I want to know why recovering astronauts was delayed so much. Did it involve any politics? I don't think it involved politics. I think it involved a company called Boeing, which has been for, I think, like the last decade, been devaluing things like safety regulations and oversight and stuff like that. There is, we have a lot of reports of, planes that Boeing has made having mechanical failure because of this. Like a door famously fell off of a plane recently during a recent flight. And I believe it was a Boeing craft that was supposed to return the astronauts, but it was found to not be safe for them to return because, again, they have not been doing a good job as a company. But I would give that a Google, double check that. That's me kind of shooting from the hip and just sort of like thinking about how, what are the things that I remember from the news that I read about, stuff like that. Eat Tum Tum says, can I be a guest? No, I don't have guests on my live. P fucking R says, can you break down Israel Gaza in a nutshell? I mean, it's difficult, but I'll give you the quickest and easiest explanation possible. Israel wants to be there. The countries surrounding Israel do not want it to be there. Israel is the more powerful nation in that area because they get a lot of help from America. And so they have been a very bad neighbor in the sense of annexing and invading one of their neighboring countries, Palestine. Palestine has been getting shat on by Israel for a really long time. They have been getting their land stolen and people have been getting kicked out of their homes. And in response to that, the population has become slightly more radicalized. They voted into power a terrorist organization called Hamas, which has been conducting attacks on the state of Israel in retaliation for the way that Israel has treated the people of Palestine. Not everybody in Palestine is down with the Hamas project, the same way that not everybody in Israel is down with the right-wing, take over Palestine project. But those are the people that are in charge right now, and a lot of people in Israel want Benjamin Netanyahu, who is the prime minister, to resign because of how terribly he has handled things recently. And there are plenty of people in Palestine who would love to get rid of Hamas. Now, there was one other point that I wanted to make. Yeah, it's very clear, it's very obvious that Israel has been treating the population of Palestine badly. International organizations have described Palestine as an open-air prison. And so, yeah, both Israel and Hamas are guilty of doing war crimes against the other group's citizens. And so we should not be sending money and weapons to Israel because it is illegal. We already have a law in the books that says that we are not allowed to do that. I hope that is answering all the questions that you have about Israel-Palestine. I know that it's a pretty big topic. There are people who write entire fucking series of books about that. Mike Don20 says, what are your thoughts on Trump saying, once elected, you won't have to worry about another election? Yeah, he wants to be president for life. He's going to do whatever shady, illegal, violent shit he can in order to facilitate that. He already tried once with the January 6th insurrection that failed, but now that he has more unified government control, now that he has more loyalists in both the government and various agencies like the Department of Justice and the FBI, and he's purging the military. He is sort of like, putting all the pieces in play for how he can steal every election going forward and turn our government into much more of a government that like Russia has, where there's no like real legitimate elections. Vladimir Putin can just murder people with, zero accountability, and he can steal money from the population. The population of Russia is poor, but Vladimir Putin and all of his friends are rich because they have siphoned money from the public and put it directly into their pockets. And that is the model that Donald Trump is looking to accomplish here in America. Mike says, scary times. That is completely fucking agreed with that. Nab says, where do you stand on the spectrum? I'm pretty far to the left. I'm like a progressive, I would say. Road Warrior Princess says, are you familiar with American Promise or Constitution Amendment that would undo Citizens United? I am not familiar with that specifically. I know that Pramila Jayapal introduced an amendment to reverse Citizens United. I know that is part of the Democratic platform, but yeah, unless we elect some Democrats, nothing's gonna fucking happen with that shit. Colt 78789 says they're the best and most free. Is that just propaganda? What do you mean by that, Colt? Why do young people in Russia interviews speak so highly about Russia? They truly believe they're the best and most free. Is that just propaganda? I think it's probably related to propaganda. I mean, it's the same thing that you see in North Korea, where there are some people who have drunk the Kool-Aid and believe that is, that what they are reading in the news about their country. And there are other people who just don't want to get fucking murdered. And so they say the thing that they're supposed to say. People are terrified of speaking out against the ruling class in places like Russia and North Korea because there are severe consequences for that, not just for you, but for your family and your friends and your coworkers and shit like that. It's terrifying. And it's terrifying that Trump and Republicans are trying to turn America into that, where we're already seeing people getting disappeared just for expressing political opinions that go against Trump's and Elon Musk's narratives. It's fucking terrifying. And I'm hoping that as I am saying this, I am activating people to fucking do shit about it, because, that is the only way that we get out of this, is if we all do the fucking work, Crunchy Toe Liquor says, who do you want to run for Dems in 2028? Crunchy Toe Liquor, I do get that question a lot. I am firmly against answering it, though. I am not here to wish cast the 2028 election. I'm here to talk to people about the special elections that are happening on April 1st, 2 in Florida, 1 in New York, and to activate people to go vote in that, elect some Democrats to that, get those House seats back for Democrats. And also, if you are already on board with that project, like, do the work. Like, how about you get out there and you start getting voters and you start activating people to vote in that election as well? And also, we got midterms coming up in 2026, and it is essential that Democrats run the table. We have to have a massive amount of voter participation in 2026 to undo any potential fuckery and cheating that Trump and Musk and the Republican Party are going to try to do in that election. So yeah, before we even think about 2028, I want to fucking make sure that we still have an election in 2028, you know? Let's see. Let's go back over to Twitch for a hot second. Corporal Fly says, thank you for answering my question. You have any relevant credentials to allow us to ask you anything about politics? I just know a lot about it. You know, I read a lot. So, yeah, you know, I have been following politics for a long time, and I just get deeper and deeper every year that I'm alive. Let's see here. Yeah, it was a callback to the political parties giving themselves fluffy names. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. It's the Rocketeer. It's wild. Shady. It's Norway says, wow, Trump is shady, but I like Elon Musk and SpaceX. It's Norway. I don't think you should like Elon Musk. He is a bad person. He is a wealthy, shitty, entitled child of wealth, fucking Nepo baby who hasn't worked for a fucking thing in his life. He has stolen or bought everything that he has. He has taken responsibility for things that he has not done. He is killing untold millions of people with his fucking Doge cuts and everything, which are fully illegal, by the way. He does not give a shit about the people that he hurts. He only cares about getting more money and power for him and his fucking wealthy, powerful piece of shit fucking buddies. He is trying to organize a world in which the rich can do whatever the fuck they want and everybody else has to be a fucking wage slave. He's one of those fucking crazy tech billionaires that thinks that he's better than everybody else just because he has a lot of money. And he only got that because of the situation in which he was born. So yeah, sorry to just fucking, rant at you like that, but I would encourage you to look into Elon Musk more if you think that he is a good guy. Let's see here. Mark R55 says liberals loved him when they thought he was a Democrat. I mean, we liked that he was making electric cars. We thought that was probably a good move for the world. But just because you like somebody one day and then learn more about them and then dislike them after you learn more does not mean that we were wrong to originally like him. We just did not have the information yet. But it's really cool that you keep on moving the goalposts like that. Yeah, man. Let's see here. What's it? Democrats are the party of wealth and Elon started his own businesses. This guy is clueless. That's inaccurate. What? Democrats are the party of the working class. We are the most pro-union party. The Biden administration proved that. The Biden administration lowered costs for everyday Americans. The Trump administration is raising it. And Trump has more billionaires in his cabinet than any president in history. The billionaires donated 75% of all the political donations that came from billionaires in 2024. 75% of them went to Republicans. And the Republican Party regularly cuts taxes and regulations for their businesses in exchange for all that money that they get from them. So yeah, saying that the Democrats are the party of the wealthy is completely uninformed. Let's see here. Paul Williams says the Democratic Party is the party of robbers. Also inaccurate. Smile says, I agree. The host is very clueless. No, I'm not. Kansas dude says he never voiced these views. So yeah, we don't like him now. Mark Gar says, who specifically has he harmed? Oh my God, that's a long fucking, that is a very long answer for that, Mark Gar. But let's just go through a list real quick. So he is cutting off funding for organizations that are suppressing dangerous diseases in other countries and making it more likely that those diseases come here in America. The potential for people getting hurt by that is astronomical. People 100% have already died from that. We have medication for children with AIDS in other countries that is just sitting on a shelf and dying. Not because it's going to save us money to not give those kids that medication, but just because Elon Musk told you, no, you're not allowed to do that. So those kids are going to die of that. There's food that is supposed to go to starving people that are going to die, that is literally just sitting on a shelf right now because Elon Musk just said, don't do that. He is making us less safe by moving all of our government information onto private, unregulated, unchecked servers, and having Starlink be the internet provider for the government instead of, safe fiber optic cables. Extremely sketchy shit. Cutting government services in this country is going to hurt people. The Consumer Financial Protection Board was protecting people from giant corporations that were fucking them over. Those people are going to get hurt now. They are mass firing veterans. Like 250,000 people have been fired from the government. People who were doing the work of making sure that American citizens were being taken care of. A lot of those people were military veterans. And at the same time as he's kicking out veterans from their jobs and making sure that they feel unstable and not sure where their next fucking paycheck is going to come from, how food is coming on the going to come on the table. He's also cutting services for veterans, like defunding the VA hospital and shit like that. So now these poor fucking guys with PTSD who don't know where the next fucking paycheck is going to come from, now they also can't go to the hospital or see a psychiatrist anymore because those services aren't available to them anymore. There are old people who are probably going to be missing Social Security payments because he has defunded and fired a bunch of people from the Social Security Administration. So yeah, those old people who don't get their check one week are going to starve to death potentially, or freeze to death depending on where they live. So yeah, there's just a little taste of all the people that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are hurting with their completely fucking morally bankrupt policies that aren't saving Americans any money whatsoever. All right, Tyro says you should congratulate people that ask why they should believe you and remind them that they should do the same with their news sources. That is a really good point, Tyro Pillar. I hope that people that are skeptical of the things that I'm saying are skeptical of Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and Fox News and Breitbart and Trump and Musk and everything that they see on X, of course. All right, jumping back into TikTok. Lever, 2K, good to see you again. Who do you think will take over the lead Republican Party after Trump? I think it's probably going to, depending on if people are able to exorcise Trump from office, it'll probably just be like a dynasty. Like he will hand the title of president for life to his children, the way that Kim Jong-il handed down president of, North Korea for life to Kim Jong-un. Hobby2348 says they aren't, which is entirely the problem. They don't fact check anything. Lots of people do not do fact checking. Hobby, it is not just Republican voters who do not do fact checking. So I know how frustrating it is when we see this thing happening, when we see people, falling for the con, but it is not just people on the right that fall for shit like that. So I try to preach and practice a radical empathy where we realize there, but for the grace of God, go I. If you were brought up in that city, in that state, raised by that family, going to that church, getting that information off of those social media channels and only watching Fox News and shit like that, you might fall for that shit as well. All right, we are at 37 minutes. I'm trying a new thing where I do my introduction again to see if people like it. And just want to tell everybody here that is watching that, this is a place where you can ask me anything about politics without fear of getting ridiculed for not knowing things. There's no judgments here. If you have voted in ways that I do not like in the past, I'm not going to judge you or yell at you. If you are further to the left or further to the right than me, I'm not going to judge you or yell at you. I don't believe in making people feel stupid or ashamed for not knowing things or trying to learn things, and so that is part of what I am doing here. And there's no such thing as a dumb questions. Paul Williams says, I've asked 15 questions and not got one answer. Well, it is a bit of a lottery system, Paul Williams, because I got 140 people watching on TikTok. I had a bunch of people watching on YouTube and Twitch. So yeah, it just depends on which questions I see. But I'll look out for it. Paul Williams says, do you support what USAID was doing with their tax money? Absolutely, Paul Williams. And if you don't, I would encourage you to not believe the things that Musk is saying about what USAID was doing, because a lot of that stuff has been debunked already. A lot of that stuff is like obvious lies. Let's see here. BB Fan says, have you read The Ministry of Truth by Steve Bannon? I have not. I have to imagine that has to do with like some 1984 shit about, propaganda and misinformation and stuff like that. Let's see here. Monsieur Balls. I feel like I remember your name from before. How many years until the dollar fiat is no more? I mean, it's happening. The dollar is rapidly declining in value, so I would be extremely worried about that. And what will the consequences of petrodollar collapse have for the U.S. domestic economy? There will be no welfare slop for the liberals to dole out. LOL. I hope you're being sarcastic there, mature balls. Yo, Stevo says you've already been insulting people. I mean, I insult the billionaire class and I insult Republican politicians. But as far as voters are concerned, as far as the 99% concerned, I have nothing but empathy. I have made videos in the past making fun of Trump voters. But I don't do that stuff anymore. And I practice this on my live stream. I'm not perfect. I work at it. So yeah, sometimes if somebody gets my goat, I can zing a couple of zangs. Let's see here. Paul Williams says Michelle Obama has been paid the last 16 years for working in the White House garden. That is misinformation, Paul Williams. I hope that you're a real person who's just been misinformed as opposed to somebody who is purposefully spreading misinformation on my live stream. That bald chick says, what do you think about segregated facilities no longer banned in federal contracts? So what the bald chick is referring to is there's a sort of like boilerplate contract that the government uses for hiring people that has in it that the people that we hire are not allowed to have segregated workplaces. And the Trump administration, for some reason, decided to remove that language from the contract. So anybody that gets hired from the government going forward is allowed to have a segregated workplace. And, you know, that feels pretty fucking blatantly racist to me to say that we don't give a shit if the people that we are hiring for this government are only hire white people as a standard, or we give white people the manager jobs and we give black people and brown people the hard, dangerous labor. Seems pretty fucked up to me. Seems pretty racist. I don't know how anybody can fucking justify this shit. This is evidence number 1,537 of how the Republican Party is firmly built upon a foundation of racism and fucking white superiority, white nationalism, Christian nationalism, shit like that. Paul Williams says, so you think there's no fraud? No, I did not say that there was no fraud, Paul Williams. But we already have organizations that are in charge of finding that fraud. And also what Elon Musk is doing is not finding fraud. He is lying to people. He is shutting down organizations that are investigating him. He is shutting down organizations that hurt the billionaire class because that's him. And also that help the 99% because he wants to hurt people. He wants them to be desperate so that he can have more control and power over them. Paul Williams says, well, they weren't doing a very good job of it, were they? I mean, they were doing a great job, Paul Williams, because again, everything that Elon is saying that he's finding is a lie. Paul Williams, you're supporting the robbers is what is going on here. They're probably paying you too. You know, Paul Williams, I was engaging with you because I thought you were here in good faith, but you've just proven that you weren't. So see you later, buddy. Alice, not as much fraud as people think or are led to believe. Let's see here. Comic Mike says, why do these executive orders even stand? So some of them don't, Comic Mike. Now, they are working their way through the judicial system as we speak. Some of them are going to make their way to the Supreme Court. Some of them won't. The issue is that, number one, some of these executive orders have been struck down by lower courts, and sometimes the Trump administration has decided to just not abide by that. That should be something that we are all extremely concerned and mad about. There's not a lot of things that the judges can do in that situation because, number one, Trump has full immunity thanks to the Supreme Court, and number two, the mechanism by which they would enforce their rulings is the U.S. Marshals, and they are controlled by the Department of Justice, which is currently under the purview of Pam Bondi, who is a Trump loyalist who will do anything that Trump says, regardless of if it is unconstitutional or illegal or whatever. I personally think that the judges that are getting their orders revoked should be holding the people in charge of these agencies in contempt, because Trump is the only one who has presidential immunity right now, so they can be throwing people like, fucking, the Doge Bros in jail for shit like that, and, but we don't have a lot of leverage right now, except for just people activating and organizing and boycotting and striking and protesting and putting political pressure on their elected representatives and stuff like that. Another concern is that these executive orders make it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, because they are all fucking extreme right-wing psychopaths, they just allow the orders to stand, even though they are illegal or unconstitutional or are going to hurt a lot of people both here and abroad. Let's see here. The Ilmas says, thoughts on all the 6 failed defense budget audits since 1996. So the Republican Party doesn't give a shit about the Pentagon losing money because they, again, are in bed with the billionaire class. The billionaire class makes a lot of money from the military industrial contract. They love their fucking cushy government military contracts. So they're never going to do anything but increase the military budget. And we are seeing that as we speak. The Trump budget that just, not the Trump budget, but the continuing resolution that passed last week, the spending bill, the only thing that they increased funding for was the military. So that's that. The Democrats, by contrast, they have to increase the military budget because the Democratic Party, for propaganda reasons, has been painted as the party that does not care about national security, does not care about the safety of American citizens, and does not care about the military. And so would the Democratic Party, remove 1 penny from the military budget, then the entire fucking country would lose their mind and they would say, see, look, the Democrats don't give a shit about the military, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, the Republican Party is responsible for the biggest national security failure in American history, 9/11. And, everybody was just like, well, I guess they tried their best, If people did not punish the Democratic Party for doing shit like decreasing the funding of the military, then the Democratic Party would. That is part of the party's platform. But because of the way that the media environment is weaponized against the Democratic Party, if they were to, they would get fucking excoriated. They would get fucking destroyed. So yeah, that's the long and short of that. But yeah, the military should be forced to pass a budget, 100%. User, a whole bunch of numbers, says, how do you speak so much truth and subject matter? Incredible. I hope you're not being sarcastic, user, because, well, what I do is I just read a lot and I learn a lot of things. Tucker Makes 6 says, so if Canada cancels F-35, that's huge for Lockheed Martin. That is accurate. Yeah, there is a sledgehammer quality to the tariffs and trade wars that Trump is creating out of thin air for no fucking reason. And so, yeah, there are going to be some billionaires that feel a little economic pressure from this, but they are okay with that because they're playing the long game. When the economy crashes, they're the only ones that will have the resources to buy up all of the stocks and mutual funds and shit like that are now at a discounted rate. And yeah, they're going to lose some money from Canada not buying our F-35s, but when we go to war with Canada and Mexico and Greenland and we start sending all of our money and weapons to Russia so that they can more effectively, destroy Ukraine and take over Ukraine, then those guys are going to make their money back, Also, the Trump administration is going to cut their taxes and he's going to cut regulations. So all the shit that happened with Boeing, with doors fucking falling off of planes mid-flight, all of that happened because of a weak system of oversight that Boeing was exploiting. And the Trump administration, in addition to cutting taxes, is also going to cut regulations, meaning that those companies, it's no longer going to be legal for, it's not going to be illegal for them to not have like safety checks and things like that. A couple of years ago, I mused that, airlines would crash and every single plane and kill us all if they could still make as much money as they're currently making. And hilariously and depressingly and terrifyingly, apparently I was right. LMCQ says Dems need to stop worrying about what people think. I kind of agree with you, LMCQ. And some of the things that I'm reading in this book, The Persuaders, is confirming that idea as well. But I think the Democrats have felt the consequence of having a media environment that has been weaponized against them time and time again. During the Obama administration, they passed the Affordable Care Act, which increased access to healthcare, decreased costs, and made it illegal for insurance companies to discriminate against people with pre-existing condition. That piece of legislation has saved countless numbers of lives. And how did the American people respond to that? How did they pay the Obama administration and Democrats back for that piece of legislation that they worked so fucking hard for? They gave Republicans back the House and the Senate. And then they gave the White House to Donald Trump 8 years later. And why did they do that? Because misinformation and propaganda. It is because the media was pushing all these narratives about, oh my God, the Republicans are saying there's death camps. There's fucking death panels in the Affordable Care Act. And oh my God, can you believe how the website didn't work on the first fucking day that it was rolled out and shit like that? And they said you could keep your plan, but they're getting rid of all these really bad plans. What if people wanted to keep their really bad exploitive plans that don't give them any coverage? Shit like that. So yeah, the Democratic Party has learned that misinformation and propaganda works, And so they've been incentivized to water down their messaging because otherwise they get fucking raked over the coals. And then they get raked over the coals for watering down their messaging. And people say, oh, you sound so you sound like a bunch of politicians and you're so robotic and shit like that. The Biden administration developed this electoral philosophy called deliverism, where we don't need to worry about messaging so much. We just have to do things that are good for the American people, and then they will reward us with voting for us again in the future. But that didn't happen, again, because of misinformation and propaganda. The American people were not told about the good things that the Biden administration was doing. They were being lied about a lot of things the Biden administration was doing. And some of the things that the Biden administration did that were bad, it's not a lie to point out the mistakes and the bad things that the Biden administration did. But what was wrong about that was to say that the Trump administration would be better on those issues or not connect the dots of what not voting for Biden would look like. You know, you saw narratives like, we don't like what Biden is doing with Israel, or we don't like what Biden is doing with immigration or something like that. And then saying to people, like, don't vote for Democrats going forward because that's their whole fucking thing. But if you, like, did a little bit of critical thinking, you would realize that all of those things, though bad, would be worse under a Trump administration. And we are seeing that all play out today. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think that the Democrats needed to just do their thing and be progressive and be exactly the kind of politicians that they want to be. But, you know, they keep on getting fucking taught that if they do that, then they get fucked electorally. And then the American people get fucked, you know? I don't think that it is an unreasonable assumption to think that there are Democratic politicians right now who understand that Democrats being in power keeps people from being hurt, both here and abroad, and then decide to sort of like adopt more centrist policies or more centrist messaging because they feel like, yes, I understand that's not good for the cause, but me being in office is better than me not being in office. It will hurt more people if I am not there. But, you know, that's a little bit of conjecture on my part. Let's see here. Javi says, what about Gavin Newsom going full fascist? So Gavin Newsom is not a full fascist, Javi. I don't like Gavin Newsom for a lot of the things that he has done. But, you know, there is both a progressive and a centrist case for and against Gavin Newsom. You know, he ended the death penalty in California. He put limits on the kind of force that police officers are allowed to use. He did some great work with anti-poverty laws. He was very pro-gig worker. He helped a lot with that. There's a lot of good things that he did that progressives just are mad that he didn't do more of. And then there's also like the things that he did that I like flatly disagree with, like the fact that he's against student debt relief, the fact that he's against Supreme Court expansion. Maybe he's changed about that now. You know, he's definitely vetoed a bunch of bills that the progressive state government has passed. But yeah, you know, to call him a full fascist, I think, is giving cover for actual fascists like Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the fucking cyber techno billionaire fascists like Peter Thiel and shit like that. Let's see here. Oh no, am I still frozen, Elena? Oh no. Let's see here. All right, jumping back into TikTok. Jams Schmidt says Charlie Kirk shouldn't be his son's idol. Did he say that when Charlie Kirk was on his podcast, did he say that he was his son's idol? Because that is fucking bad parenting then, if that is the case, you know? I don't know whose kid that is, because I know he was with Kimberly Guilfoyle for a little while. Maybe that's his mother's influence or some shit like that. Maybe that's his mama's mess, but yeah, that is fucking concerning as hell. When did Harry Mack get into politics? I don't know what that comment means. I don't know who Harry Mack is. Aiden Aguirre says, who was the first president? George W. Bush. George Washington was the first president of America. Aiden Aguirre. Just Jess says, Dems need the old Geico caveman marketing strategy. You know, Just Jess, I don't think that's a bad idea, actually. You know, let's have 1,000 different kinds of, you know, mascots and whatnot. Let's see here. Danny Hume says, any source on this, or is this just straight opinion? Everything that I say is based in fact, Danny Humes, but if there's something specific that you feel was inaccurate, let me know, and I will tell you exactly where I got that information from. Diego Vargas, good to see you again. Do you think Obama is still a big player in politics? So, I don't know. He's been a little absent from the political stage for a little while now. Ever since he left office, it seems like he has been kind of championing more grassroots organization, like he has, organizations that try to get, people from diverse backgrounds and from poor neighborhoods into politics, and getting those people into STEM as well. So yeah, I don't know if he's still trying to attack politics from the position of I'm a thought leader and a change maker, so much as we're going to use all of our resources to help this from sort of like the ground up. But I don't know, there might be things that he's doing that I don't know about. I am not, I'm not a fucking full-on Obama watcher, Marcia, but he's still being blamed for everything. Yeah, that's what the Republicans do. They make fucking, what do you call it? They make, they break things and they blame everybody else. Super B Train says, are we allowed to ask questions? That's what the sign says, my man. Chris Cook says, can you shut up and play games on Computer? I can, but that's not what I'm doing here today. BB Fan says, do you know why Pete changed his mind and isn't pursuing a position in Michigan Senate? People are saying that it's because he wants to run for president in 2028. And, he's an excellent communicator. And so, he's a little more centrist than I am. But I do not believe that politicians need to mirror my policy platform preferences perfectly. That's some fucking 4-word alliteration right there, guys. I just think they need to be the better option. And Pete Buttigieg would be a better option than Donald Trump or any fucking right-wing ding-dong that they decide to run should DT kick the B. Chris Cook says, do you understand that is not a question about politics? Maybe you should go see a doctor. Sharebear 2022 says, why are Democrats so violent? Democrats aren't violent. How'd you feel about January 6th? Sharebear, do you feel like Republicans are violent because of January 6th? Jam Schmidt says, Buttigieg concerns me, but he's a decent public speaker. He concerns me also just because, again, he is much more of a centrist, neoliberal kind of Democrat than I would prefer. But again, he is one of the best communicators in the Democratic Party. So I would definitely not be upset if he became like the figurehead, because he would be the one sort of like expressing these opinions very, very well. But yeah, I mean, there's also the argument. Sometimes people get a little bit too, political commentary-y in their own political opinions. Like they'll be like, yeah, I like this person, but they're a woman, and is America too misogynistic to elect a woman? Or I like this person, but they are Hispanic, and is America too racist to elect a Hispanic person? And so there are a lot of people who are concerned about people like Buttigieg because he is gay, and people are like, yeah, he's great at public speaking, and he is great at communicating. He's centrist, so potentially he is more attractive to a general election audience than somebody more progressive like an AOC. But he's gay, and is America still too homophobic to elect a gay person? There's that concern as well. Sharebear 2022 says, Kamala only reads script. Yeah, Sharebear, you never answered me about, I see what you're doing here. You are just here to spam with propaganda, so you're gone. Chris Cook, do you play neoconservative jump games on PlayVision 2? No, I do not. Lever2K, Chris Cook, do I know you? That name sounds really familiar, Chris Cook. Lever2K, thoughts on population booms in red states versus blue states, seeing lots of people leaving. So it's sort of like, this is going to be a little bit of a walk, so go with me on this. It is more expensive to be poor than it is to be rich. What I mean by that, let's say that you are a construction worker and you need to buy boots, but you can't afford the good kind of boots that last for a decade. You can only afford the kind of cheap boots that only last for a year. So you end up spending more money over 10 years buying and rebuying boots than you would be able to if you had enough money to buy the good boots in the first place. That is kind of what is going on with people moving to red states. Red states are cheaper to live in because their state governments don't provide as many services to them as the state governments of blue states. The life expectancies are lower in red states. There's more crime and there's more violence in red states. Fewer people want to live there, so it is cheaper to live there. So people are moving there, not because they want to, but because we are suffering through a historic cost of living crisis where monopolization and tariffs and supply chain fuck-ups, all thanks to Republicans and the Trump administration, have made it so that people can barely afford to live anymore, and they are doing things like moving back in with their parents or moving to red states because that's only where they can afford it. And again, those are going to cost them more money in the long run because they're going to have to pay for things that their government is not providing for them. Or they're going to have to keep on replacing things that get stolen because there's more crime in those areas. Or they're going to have to spend more money on water filters because they can't trust the water systems to be properly maintained and not full of lead and stuff like that. I feel really bad for people that are in that position, and more people are in that position nowadays than ever before. And again, that is fully the responsibility of Republicans and Donald Trump and Elon Musk. The billionaire class and the Republican Party are making it so that people like you and me cannot afford to live anymore. And they are making us desperate, and they're making it so that we have to take any job that we can get. They are making it so that when we're in those jobs, we have no legal protections against being harassed or assaulted or treated unfairly by our employers. These jobs are bad paying and unsafe and degrading, and we were being forced to take them because the billionaires are fucking squeezing our necks so fucking tight with their fucking steel plated, gold crusted, diamond crusted boots. We don't have to live like this. We can have nice things if we had politicians, if we elected politicians, and when I say this, I mean the Democratic Party. As flawed as it is, this is the platform of the Democratic Party that protects the 99% from the 1%. That is the world that we can live in, where we can say to your boss, you have to pay this person more. You have to give them benefits so that they can have health insurance. You have to make sure that they get time off so they can spend it with their kids when they are first born and shit like that. You have to make it so that people can survive on a single income going forward. You have to not buy up all the single family homes so that there are no homes fucking available for people anymore. That is what government should be doing, and that is what the Democratic platform is. So yeah, people are moving to red states because they fucking have to, and they're going to suffer in those red states. But again, guys, we don't have to live like this. We don't have to move back in with our parents. We don't have to fucking suffer through this, guys. We don't have to be worrying about if the air that we are breathing is clean, if the water that we are drinking is safe. We don't have to worry about if our children are being exposed to lead just from whatever apartment we're fucking in or whatever, We can have a better life. But in order to do that, we have to do the work, guys. All right. So sorry about going on another fucking rant there, Brian says, we get it, shit hit the fan. What's our next move? Thank you for that question, Brian. This is always the part of the show where I go into what we do about all this. But I did see another question that I thought was really interesting. Big Bio Gaming says, what do you think about the Democratic Party's power vacuum with Schumer as the new minority leader? So here's the thing. The Democratic Party, they're in a difficult position right now because they do not have political power. They do not have the resources of the Republican Party, and the media weaponization against them has become turbocharged since most people get their news off of social media, which is owned by billionaires and also extremely easy to manipulate if you have a lot of money and power, which the billionaire class does. So they're in a very difficult position right now, and there's no real leader. Additionally, it's hard for the Democratic Party to coalesce because it is a rainbow coalition. It is a group of people. It is a party that is made up of a bunch of little groups. And so that is one of the advantages that the Republican Party has in organizing, is that they are more of a monolith, especially now that, Trump is their God king. They all just sort of like fall in line and do whatever Daddy Trump tells them to do. Whereas the Democratic Party, there's the LGBTQ coalition and the African American coalition and the Latinx coalition, the women's rights coalition, et cetera, et cetera. Now, as far as like the power vacuum with, Chuck Schumer being minority leader, I do not think that Chuck Schumer is doing a great job. I think that him voting to allow the CR to pass, he basically ended the filibuster. It's a little more complicated than voting for it, but he essentially let it pass. I think that was a really difficult choice. And I think there were a lot of really good politicians that also made that choice. Brian Schatz is an extremely great progressive senator from Hawaii, and he voted to end cloture on that as well. So, yeah, it's not a simple choice. It was not him caving to the Trump administration. But I also don't know if he's the person for this moment. And so I kind of support switching over to a more progressive Senate leader. I am always going to be in favor of a more progressive and younger generation style politician like an AOC or a Jasmine Crockett or a Katie Porter or something like that. And I know that not everybody agrees with me on that. Like, there are plenty of people who think that, those people are too far to the left, or that we need people that with a little more age and experience. But I think that's where the party is strongest. So where everybody is upset with Chuck Schumer for the things that he's done and for being a little more milquetoast and centrist and shit like that, I am for replacing him with somebody that is more aligned with like my style of politics. And I think that's probably a smarter move in the long run, even though not everybody sees things the way that I do. It just feels, just from what I'm reading about, the strength of political parties and persuading people, it seems like having people that are much more confident in their views and able to communicate those views in that position is just going to be better for the party and the country in the long run. All right, so let me get back to that one dude who asked, what do we do now? So here's the thing. I forget who asked that question, but this is always the part of the live when I do this. We have to do the work. We are the ones that have to solve this problem, because there is no group of people that has the power to save us that wants to save us. The Republicans in Congress aren't going to do it. They don't give a shit. The billionaire class is not going to do it. They don't give a shit. The Supreme Court isn't going to do it. They don't give a shit. And the Democrats, they want to do it. They do give a shit, but they don't have as much money, power, or influence as they would need to do that. The only advantage that we, the people, have over the Republican Party and the billionaire class and pieces of shit like Vladimir Putin is we have a lot of people. There are a lot of us. And so we have to do the work. We have to activate people. We have to organize. You don't have to start from scratch. You can find an organization that is already doing this work and just join them. If you want to be a part of the fight right now, there are great organizations that you can work with to do this work. There's Indivisible, which is a group that mainly is putting pressure on people that are already elected. You can join one of their campaigns, or they have a blueprint available for anybody to check out. And, you can read, whatever they have, and it can teach you how to grab a couple of friends and put political pressure on your senator or representative or state government or whatever. If you want more progressive candidates and younger candidates, there is a group called Run for Something that only supports progressive candidates under the age of 40. That's great for candidate recruitment. That is, if you're just like, I just want different politicians, that's the group that you should be working with. I've volunteered with them before. They're a great organization. It's really easy to volunteer for them. And then there's Vote Save America, which is a group that tries to win elections and tries to activate people. They connect you with canvassing opportunities for getting out the vote, convincing people. They also do a really good job of sort of like examining where the best races are for people to be putting their time and money and energy in. But yeah, just here's the thing is that we have to do it. We have to do the work. But if we all do the work, then none of us have to do a lot of work. I did 6 shifts in 2024. I could not have done more than that. But I would love to have won that election and only had to do 3 shifts, So yeah, let's just get more people involved. We have to do the work of also not just, putting political pressure on our representatives and stuff like that, but we also have to do the work of making sure that everybody in this country is on the same fucking page about what is going on. You got people getting their news off of right-wing sources like Fox News and Breitbart. You got people getting their news off of social media, which is the fucking Wild West. There's no accuracy on social media. It is literally just a machine that confuses people, sows division and chaos, makes people fight amongst themselves, and coincidentally increases voter turnout for the Republican Party and decreases voter turnout for the Democratic Party. Isn't it interesting how social media does that? So yeah, we have to talk to people. We have to talk to people in real life. And bonus points if it's somebody that already knows you a little bit. Friends, family, coworkers, loved ones, neighbors. Talk to those people. Do the deep, hard work of convincing them to either not vote for Republicans going forward, to join you in the work, to vote if they're not a voter. You know, there are 85 million people who could have voted in 2024 who didn't. We got to find those people, and we got to convince them to vote and to vote for Democrats. Of the 77 million people who voted for Republicans in 2024, not all those people are happy with what is going on, especially all the fucking veterans and government employees that just got fucking fired, all the people who are married to people that are now in ICE fucking custody for no fucking reason. We got to find those people, and we got to make sure that they are activated too. We got to make sure that people are on the same page. We got to make sure that people are prepared to vote, are prepared to protest and strike and boycott. We got to make sure that we are there for each other. Part of this work is, you know, making sure that the people that you know in your life that are struggling, that they don't, you know, completely collapse, and that you can help them. You know, there's an expression for dealing with authoritarian governments: no one lets go of anyone's hand. So long as we're there for each other, we can kind of mitigate the damage of what this administration is going to do to us. So yeah, and, you know, the best thing we can do is, you know, do this work and also find more people to do this work. Because again, the more people that do this, the less work we all have to do together. So yeah, there's my speech about how we go forward, guys. There's my speech about how we solve this fucking problem. I sure hope that it registered with some people. I sure hope it's not just the same 100 people who are hearing me repeat the shit over and over again. I sure hope the people that are hearing me repeat it over and over again are actually doing it and not just listening to me talk and becoming inspired and then just fucking, you know, going watching a movie or some shit. Like, I hope it's registering with people. I hope that I'm getting more people involved in this project. You know, I don't care about my numbers growing for my own fucking shtick, you know, for my own, you know, clout here. I'm trying to get a channel that has 1 million fucking followers and my stream has a fucking million viewers, because that's 1 million people who will hear this message and will fucking do the work, guys. So I'm hoping that you guys will help me put this out there. You know, either repeat my message or just send more people to me so I can give them this message. You know, because I don't care if there are 1,000 channels just like mine and we all have 500,000 viewers or whatever. That's just as good as all those people coming to me, you know? So yeah, let's just do the fucking work, guys, because I'm scared and I'm worried and I don't like it when people are suffering, you know, even people that I don't know. Thanks, Dr. TikTok. I appreciate it. Although I did see you just spending a whole bunch of time and energy saying bullshit, so I don't trust you one tick. Alrighty, Laser Lizard says, why don't Democrats support women? They do, Laser Lizard. Are you here in good faith, or are you just here to spread misinformation? Let's see here. Noicha Gamer. Oh boy, let's see what you got in store for me today. What punishment should be given to the domestic terrorist destroying Teslas? Noicha Gamer, I gotta ask, because you always come to my fucking stream with these fucking bullshit questions. Are you open at all? Like, are you available to new information, or are you just trying to fight? Because if you're just trying to fight, you can fucking leave, you know? Then why do you always say this shit, Noicha Gamer? All right, let's see here. Which punishment should be given to the domestic terrorists that are destroying Teslas? I think that the people that are destroying Teslas should be given the exact same punishment as somebody who would destroy a Ford dealership or a Chrysler dealership or whatever. I do not think that it should be classified as domestic terrorism just because the guy who owns the cars is a really good friend of the president who has given him a lot of money. That is that's corruption at its fucking core, Noicha Gamer. And so I should hope that you will fucking, you know, listen to this shit that I'm saying, man. Outback Steakhouse says, do you approve of Trump's handling of the border? No, I do not. The only thing that Trump has done is increased illegal immigration. So congratulations, Trump. Subtle Psycho says Teslas have more rights than women now. Yeah, Nochi Gamer. Think about that fucking shit. Bryn Spam, Trump or Kamala? Kamala every day, but also, like, why are we even talking about Kamala Harris? The election is over. Are you saying, am I a Democrat or Republican? I'm a Democrat. Paul said he increased it. Yes, he did, Paul, because he has cut down on legal immigration. It is virtually impossible for somebody who isn't rich to legally immigrate now because of the changes that the Trump administration has made to immigration. And when those people who were in the middle of becoming citizens the right way, the way that people on the right like to fucking complain about, all those avenues get taken away from them, and they are fucking terrified that their children are going to be forced to fucking join the cartel or some shit like that, the only option that is left to them is illegal immigration. So 100% Trump has increased illegal immigration. He did it in his first term. He's doing it now. Outback Steakhouse says, I'm asking this in good faith. Can you give me source on that? Outback Steakhouse, tell you what, I'm putting my website in the chat here on Twitch. I want you to send me an email, and I will send you exactly the information that you were asking for. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can find it very easily. Settled Psycho says, ignorant people mention communism like they think it's been implemented. Mardo Snick Rap says, are you a communist or a Muslim? Only options. I feel like you're being silly. CG says, do Zionists through AIPAC control the government? No, they do not. AIPAC and the State of Israel has a lot of influence over the government because of our campaign finance laws being a fucking joke. Thank you very much, the Supreme Court and the Republican Party. But no, they do not fully control our government. BB Fan says, do you listen to podcasts? If so, have you heard the new podcast called Find Out? I haven't heard of that podcast. I do listen to podcasts, and here's the thing. I also get a lot of joy from the schadenfreude of watching people that voted Republican suffer for the consequences of their vote. I have to admit that. But I also have to say I don't think it's productive. You know, like, if somebody is suffering because of something that a Republican politician did, it doesn't help turn them into a not Republican voter or a Democratic voter to wave our fingers at them and say, you got what you fucking voted for. And it's like, I get it, guys. Like, I get being frustrated and angry and getting satisfaction and joy out of that stuff. So I guess I would just say, like, have that be a little part of your self-care, but then don't make that like your whole fucking thing. You know, like, I'm not going to listen to that podcast because I don't want to support that project. I'm sure it's very fun and I'm sure it's very satisfying to listen to, but I don't think that helps. I think it makes Republican voters feel like their enemy is Democratic voters, the ones that are shaming them and rubbing their fucking vote in their faces like a dog that took a shit in the fucking kitchen, you know? And what I'm trying to do, part of my project, is to get everybody who thinks that their enemy is progressives or centrists or trans kids or immigrants or poor people or Republican voters to recognize that their enemy is the billionaire class and the Republican politicians who are working with the billionaire class. And fucking Vladimir Putin, who is working with both of those groups of people to fuck us all over and take away our rights and make our lives fucking worse. Alrighty. Okay. Outback Steakhouse will do. I see you are a comedian. Who are some of your favorite comedians? And what's your stand-up against left and right? So some of my favorite comedians, I like... I kind of like newer comedians. Like, I could always say, you know, like, I love me, Bill Burr and Demetri Martin, you know, people that already have like great careers. So I like to hype up the newer comics. I like this woman, Andrea Jin, is fucking hilarious. I love somebody else that a comedian named Kristen Key. Everybody should check out Kristen Key. She's fucking hilarious. Yeah, she's fucking great. Yeah, I like Nate Bargatze a lot. I think Joe List has had some of the best specials in recent memory. So yeah, you know, there's some good ones for you there. And yeah, I do make fun of, I do try to, you know, do some of this political speech in my stand-up. I try to make it entertaining and not just me, you know, standing on a soapbox. Let's see here. KK Cooper says, not what they are doing. Find out on same page as you are. Oh, okay, KK Cooper. In that case, I will check it out. Non-Hero says, Trump is a great comedian. I completely disagree with that. T House says, yes, keeping us distracted with division while the billionaire class takes all of us for our money. Completely agree with that. So T House, the one adjustment that I would make to that, and I know this is probably not what you're saying, but I want to be clear about this because I'll see people like Matthew McConaughey on the news be like, left versus right, it's not about that. But I think that when you say things like that, and again, I don't think you said this, I think when people say things like that, it makes it seem like the Democratic Party politicians and the Republican Party politicians are the same, and that them fighting is the distraction. But I need to be clear about something, that the Democratic Party is better than the Republican Party, even if Republican Party voters aren't our real enemy. The billionaire class is working with the Republican politicians. The shitty people on the Supreme Court are working with the Republican Party and the shitty billionaires to do all this shit. So part of the thing that I'm fighting is not just don't tell Trump voters that they're ugly and stupid, but also don't believe that both parties are the same and that they're all owned by the same corporate fucking billionaires and shit like that. The platforms are different. The outcomes are different. The politicians are different. Thank you, T. Howe. Excellent. I'm glad you didn't view that as me criticizing you there. B says, both are, so what's your point? That is literally the opposite of what I just said. Let's see here. Let's see here. Neutsche Gamer. I gotta be honest, Neutsche Gamer. I am just scrolling through here, looking for a reason to block you, because how many times you gotta come on here? Let's see here. I agree, it makes sense. I just both think they should be considered terrorism. Neutsche Gamer, okay. But what about the fact that Donald Trump is making it terrorism? Do you think that that is a problem, the way that I said that it was a problem, Neutsche Gamer? Yeah, Neutsche Gamer, you should not listen to Joe Rogan also. Let's see here. Okay, Neutsche Gamer. What's gross? Yeah, now you guys are having a fight about Joe Rogan. I agree that no one should listen to Joe Rogan. He is a ding-dong. Neutsche Gamer, the same people fund them both, though. Yes, but billionaires give more money to Republicans, and the platform of the Republican Party is what their billionaires want. The Republican Party cuts taxes for the billionaire class and raises taxes on the rest of us. The Republican Party cuts regulations that force companies that are owned by billionaires to treat us better, to make sure their products are safe, to pay us, their workers, what we are owed. The Democratic Party does not do that. And so the billionaires who give to the Democrats are doing so out of moral obligation. The billionaires, most of which give to the Republican Party, are doing so out of self-interest because they know that the Republican Party will increase their money and power. Let's see here. Neutsche Gamer says, yeah, Republicans are pretty bad on that. Please get your news from somewhere else, Neutsche Gamer, please. Because every time you ask a question, I know exactly where you're getting these narratives from. Dale Gribble says, what do you think about Yemen right now? I mean, so it's very complicated. There's I just listened to a breakdown of that on this podcast that I listened to called Pod Save the World, where they kind of broke down all the different players and stuff like that. And so it's difficult to go through all the different things about how the Houthis are not technically part of the Yemeni government, even though they're supported by them, and they're also kind of supported by Iran. But even if they're getting into a fight with the Houthis, they're not necessarily getting into a fight with Iran, but it is kind of threatening war with Iran. So yeah, it's a whole fucking thing. The short version is we are seeing Trump's true colors. We have every one of us that has had their eyes open has known that he doesn't give a shit about global peace and security. He just cares about his own fucking bottom line. And if it means starting a fucking war with Iran and increasing tensions in the Middle East and giving more power and support to right-wing autocrats like Netanyahu and Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, then he'll do it. He doesn't give a shit how many foreign wars he starts. He is in the middle of doing that right now. He's in the middle of increasing all these global tensions to start more wars from happening, as he has just been for the last 10 years saying that he's such a fucking dub and he wants to end the wars and stuff like that. Brian McDaniel says, are you arguing that the Dems aren't corporate shills? Yes, I am arguing that, Brian McDaniel. You can find me specific examples of Democrats that are corporate shills, but the Democratic Party in general is not. corporate shills. The platform of the Democratic Party is not corporate shills. As far as their record goes, they are more pro-worker and anti-corporations and billionaires than the Republican Party. So yeah, that is what I'm arguing, and if you want me to go deeper into that, I can. Chris Sowers says, yes, they do, LMAO. Where do you get your news? I don't know what you're talking about, Chase. And I get my news from a variety of sources, because that is the only way that you can fight against bias. Jojo, check out the TikTok of Representative Chris Murphy's summary of Trump's first 6 weeks. Very disturbing. Yes, Jojo, that is excellent. I actually saved that video because I found it very informative. Please check out Chris Murphy's summary of Trump's first 6 weeks. He put that video out on all of his social media feeds. So go check that out again. Chris Murphy's summary of Trump's first 6 weeks. Senator Chris Murphy. Brian McDaniel says, please do. All right. What is it that was unclear? What is it that you think I was wrong about? OC3AN Life says, yeah, wow, variety of sources. Name them. Okay. Let's see here. Frank Johnson says, please beam me up. I'll easily win. I don't do debates, Frank Johnson, because I'm not here to fight with people. I am just here to answer questions and spread some correct, positive narratives. Frank Johnson says, can I have a conversation with you after you already said I'll easily win? Yeah, I don't have faith in your motives here, my man. All right, where do I get my news? All right, so I get my news from progressive sources like the Crooked Media Network and MSNBC. I also check out legacy news sources like CNN and the New York Times. I check out foreign sources like the Guardian UK and the BBC. I check out fully neutral sources like the Associated Press. And what else? And sometimes I dip into more long-form stuff like The Atlantic. So yeah, there you go. Enjoy. Let's see here. Guess who farted? This guy says, have we been at war with Iran since 1980? We've been at war with Iran since 1980. Where have you been? Your friends are out setting Teslas on fire in Las Vegas and New York City today. What happens when lithium power cells exceed their thermal limits? If you do condemn these type of left-wing behavior, you are going to get someone killed. Well, guess who farted? This guy? You don't know who is setting those Teslas on fire. Nobody does. Nobody has taken credit for it. I think one person has been arrested, but they're not the only person who is doing it. So to say that that is left-wing violence, you're making a lot of assumptions there, my man. Whereas we know that January 6th was perpetrated by people on the right. It was incited by people on the right. So yeah, if you have a problem with political violence, I think that you should be speaking out against the Republican Party. Is that not the case, my man? Do you not feel as though the Republican Party is guilty of doing violence and also incentivizing violence in their party? Like, how do you feel about Trump pardoning all of the January 6th rioters, some of whom beat cops within a fucking inch of their life? You know? Let's see here. Guess who farted? This guy says they arrested 3 in Vegas today. Unless you call KLAS, I don't know what that means. And your friends are getting funded by left-wing donors. No, they're not. That is a conspiracy theory. Guess who farted? This guy? Please get your news from other sources. Guess who farted? This guy? Because all of that stuff that you just... I don't know who they arrested today. I did not see that news report. I only saw that they arrested one lady. I don't know what her politics are. But yeah, it could be a lot of different people. And as far as like getting funded by left-wing donors, no. No, left-wing billionaires are not paying people to go destroy Teslas. That is complete fabrication, misinformation. That is a lie. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all your questions and for all of your comments and for watching. My streaming schedule is 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday. I often start early because I really like doing these. If you have a question that I was not able to get to, please hit me up through my website, jarrettbernstein.com. Also, my DMs are open. I appreciate any support that you can give me. Hey, I got a fun little hat. The caps are great, but it does make it seem like you're saying that I'm lying. But that's a cool thing. If somebody does think I'm lying, then they give me money because they think I'm lying. So yeah, I appreciate any support that you can give me, whether it is the free kind, like liking and sharing and telling your friends how great my live streams are. If you can afford to do the financial kind of support, I appreciate that too. But obviously you don't have to. We're all suffering through a cost of living crisis. So put food on your family's table before you send me, a couple of nickels and dimes. But you can, if you like. I have a Patreon that you can join. I think I have 4 patrons right now who I'm all very proud of. You guys are the best. I have a store that you can buy things from. You can find both of those things on my website, jarrettbernstein.com. And also you can send gifts on TikTok and Twitch and I think YouTube, but I have absolutely no idea. This guy, guess who farted, says, you are so full of shit, moron. Well, thank you for leaving a comment because you are increasing my visibility on Twitch. I really appreciate that. But you can share yourself out whenever. No one's forcing you to be here, buddy. All right. And lastly, let's see here. Was there anything else I wanted to say? No, last thing is just please do the work. Everybody, please do the work. And, I'm hoping that everybody who's here has already heard my spiel about that. So yeah, don't be cynical. Do not give up. The billionaires and fucking Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they want you to give up. They want you to think that resistance is futile. So send them a giant fuck you by not giving up. They want you to think resistance is futile. Tell them back, well, suck my fucking butthole, you piece of shit, you weird ass fucking dork. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to fucking talk to people. I'm going to organize. I'm going to fucking boycott. I'm going to fucking strike. I'm going to fucking protest. I'm going to yell at my fucking Republican representatives and tell them not to fucking do their job and protect this country and protect their citizens and protect the fucking Constitution. I'm going to do the work. And I'm going to get other people to do the work. That's part of the reason why I do these lives, is like a fuck you to those guys. They don't want me to do this shit. So, yeah, please don't give up. There are great organizations out there doing the work. You can join them. Indivisible, Run for Something, Vote Save America. And, no one lets go of anyone's hand. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. Do the work. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.